My name is Susan Archibald. I'm Dave Archibald's wife.
My name is Lauren Archibald, and I am Dave's daughter.
He was the lead on a large environmental engineering firm at the time, but then something started to go sideways, and he was no longer doing the work. He was spending a lot of time socializing in the office. He was repetitive storytelling. He wasn't meeting deadlines, and there were a lot of concerns, and so he was actually fired because he wasn't doing the job that he was supposed to be doing, but nobody knew at that time that he had early onset Alzheimer's. Dave was always an adventurer, and he was always the jokester. People loved him because he was always having fun and cracking jokes. So I guess you would describe him as the life of the party. Lots of energy, enthusiasm. And then as he started to struggle, he started to lose confidence. And finally, we got referred to a neurologist, and he diagnosed Dave with either depression manifesting itself as Alzheimer's. A month later, we went back and found that it actually wasn't depression. It was actually, in fact, Alzheimer's disease. But then once reality started to settle in, we sat down with a really good bottle of wine on the back deck, and we wrote our bucket list. So we have a really good friend who's a lawyer, and he sat us down and mapped out, all of the things that you need to do, and one of them was an advance directive. And that was a really important component for us because we knew that down the road, Dave wouldn't be able to make decisions for himself, and he wanted to be very clear about the criteria that once were met, he no longer wanted to live. We talked all of these things through, and his criteria was when he could no longer feed himself and when he no longer recognized his family. Those are pretty simple, but very clear and very definable. And those were written up into his advance directive. He can no longer talk. He can no longer feed himself. All of his needs are met. He can barely walk, but he still knows us. So that part of the criteria is still very clear. I walk in and I say hi and he goes, hey, and that's about all he can do. That and say yes. So those are sort of his two words.
1 year ago or a year and a half ago, and he's dancing in a living room, and along the whole journey it always seems really challenging, but then you look back now 1 year ago and you're like, oh my god, that was actually amazing. To be where he was a year ago would be really nice.
Alzheimer's is a really cruel disease, and it's a long drawn out process that robs a person of every form of dignity, and they suffer a very cruel, inhumane death. So to provide the opportunity for compassion and support to remove that cruelness, I think, is a responsibility that all of us have as Canadians. So sharing Dave's story and helping them understand the journey that he's on is not a good one. And I think if people understood that they would be supportive. And I think that shows in the polling. I'm not sure that everybody would go ahead with MAID if that was, an option for them. But I think everybody understands that there are cases where this is appropriate and should be made legal and should be supported. Dave hasn't met his criteria yet. He still recognizes us, so we're not at that point. But that point will come. And knowing that we have the ability to help him not suffer, it would give me peace of mind. I lie awake a lot, worrying about Dave and his situation, but also us having to make that kind of decision. These are not light decisions to make, but they're humane decisions to make. Well, I would love for people to reach out to their MPs, to have conversations at dinner parties, to debate the issues, to help people understand the needs